Just to be clear from the outset, I'm directly affected by this proposal and I've declared that interest to the commissioners. So this letter wasn't initiated by me, it was brought forward by another member of the board and endorsed unanimously by all commissioners. The purpose of the letter is to make sure that there is full transparency, proper process and clear information before decisions are made. Members of the board had heard how residents and representatives of the local community in Garth felt that MHKs did not know enough about the offshore wind farm, so we're not equipped to make decisions about it. And that made us think about Cair Vie, and we wanted to be certain that members were asking the right questions. The matter was brought to the board for discussion, and we unanimously agreed to send information to members to ensure that they were sufficiently informed before protocols block them from discussing the matter with the public. One of the key concerns is the sequence of events. So a generation licence has already been applied for before any planning application has been submitted. And that raises questions about whether decisions or commitments may already be forming before the full details are even publicly available or scrutinised. And alongside that, there still isn't a single clear consolidated description of the full project. So we don't have confirmed turbine locations, cable routes, or the full infrastructure impacts. And that makes proper scrutiny very difficult.
In the letter, you mentioned that there's been little to no consultation with residents who are affected. Obviously, I understand that is yourself included. Mm-hmm. How worried are the commissioners as a whole about that, just for the residents, obviously, across Arbory and Rushen?
We've been approached by a number of residents who've raised that concern, and also by NGOs. For instance, that the promised ecological stakeholder group has never materialised. So there's certainly gaps in that process. And, you know, we can see from the MUA's own website that there has been very little published for over a year. And so we have this void where the local population can't access any information. And that's not clearly good for anybody.
How disappointing is the lack of information? The commissioners mentioned in the letter that there's a planning application which they believe is imminent. So when you combine all of that together, you know, how sort of disappointed are you about the lack of information that's come out?
Well, we've already seen from the Morvannin offshore proposal that once formal processes begin, elected members can become more limited in how far they can engage publicly, particularly where legal advice is involved. And so the concern from Arbory and Rushen Commissioners is that these steps need to be taken early, and the scrutiny, if it's taken too late when positions have already started to solidify, we won't get a good outcome.
What would you like the members of Tynwald to do? Obviously, the board wrote to them asking them to do things. So what is it you'd like them to do specifically? Is it lobby on your behalf, or is it, you know, try and put in some measures in place for the residents?
We've tried to give a detailed overview of where the board has concerns. It's obviously a very complex issue and there is multiple different actions. What we've tried to do is simplify it for members so that they know exactly what questions they should be asking. So the board were very clear in their letter. They weren't expressing a view on the planning merits. They literally are taking the experience from the offshore Morvannin application process and saying, look, there is a risk here that members are insufficiently informed before the formal process begins. And then subsequently, for protocol reasons, they'll be constrained in their ability to engage with their constituents.
Do you think this scheme by Manx Utilities, the Cair Vie scheme, has sort of been lost with obviously the one that's come from Morvannin and Orsted? Do you think that one's kind of overtaken the Cair Vie?
I think they're two very different projects. I think what we're seeing is the start of the Morvannin project, the formal inquiry process. What we're not seeing is how that process is going to play out onshore. And there is a risk there that the two applications will be treated very differently, and the people affected by those applications will be treated very differently. The commissioners have been notified by the planning department that an application is imminent, and we have no more information than that really. So it's a difficult one as to whether it has been lost in the ether or whether something is going to come through quite suddenly. It's disappointing when we've had reassurances in the past that the local residents would be informed before the general public, and to my knowledge that hasn't happened. So we will wait and see.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.